So welcome everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, wherever you are. Welcome to today's Voices session. Today we are going to be talking about negotiation and negotiation with authenticity specifically. So many of you, I think, already know Voices very well. We are a community of people who want to empower women, people who want to support young women in the early stages of their career to make career choices, to develop career-related skills, and empower ourselves and others as such. And through the Voices community, we developed a community journey that we are in the beginning of, but in the midst of in the same time. This community journey helps young women learn career development skills through 4 key themes that we are covering and will be covering in the next few months. The community journey takes an overall of 1 year, and we cover themes such as authenticity, self-management in the digital age, leadership, and then career deep dives in the very end. So right now we are in the theme of authenticity, and within this theme, we will be covering how to negotiate with authenticity in our careers. So thank you very much for the Voices team for having put together this material so far. Thank you for participants for joining. And we'll be introducing our facilitators and speakers for today just in a moment. But before that, a bit of housekeeping. If you feel comfortable, please turn your camera on. Feel free to ask questions, comment, reflect at any time using the chat. Feel free to post on social media, and we will also be sharing the Slack community that we have for Voices community members later along the way. So feel free to join the community there if you wish. And so today is a special session because we have two speakers, 2 facilitators who are also very good friends, both from the negotiations space, both global shapers as well, related to our community of making social impact. So we have Miroslav Draganov, and then we have Shehab Eldin with us, both experts, both really good negotiators, and I think they've been putting together some really exciting stuff for us, even leaving us with a bit of a surprise. And before I pass it on to them for a bit of an introduction and then to get started with today's session, I also wanted to say that we are lucky enough and fortunate enough that the 2 facilitators offered that over and beyond today's session, we can do a practice session with them, so that not only do we learn about how to negotiate with authenticity, but that we also get to practically see how to do it. And so this will take place as part of the next upcoming Voices event, which I think some of you are already registered for, on the 10th of December, which is going to be a practice session for negotiation and then some networking just before closing the year and before Christmas. So we will say more about that in the newsletter on the Voices community channel, so you will hear more, but just wanted to say that basically watch out and learn today so that next time you can also keep practicing. All right, so I will pass it on first to Shehab. I think he will get started with a bit of an introduction as to how to negotiate with authenticity. So on to you. And meanwhile, I can see that there are some members who now managed to join. So I think we are just on time with all of this. So welcome everyone. On to you, Shehab. Very excited to be learning from you today.
Lovely. Thank you very much. And thank you for having us. And I was part of this last year. I enjoyed observing, and it's a pleasure to be with all of you today. We have a big challenge today, which is basically we have very limited time. And I tried to negotiate with Sophia before we start about the time issue, but it did not really work, which actually does not speak very well to our negotiation skills. Apparently, she's a much, much stronger and better negotiator than us. But we will do what we can. I would like to just tell you a little bit about where I come from. So I'm talking to you right now from Cairo. I run a small consulting firm out of Paris called Resolve, and we operate all over the world. I fell into the passion of conflict and negotiation some very long time ago. From a business background, I have been studying and working on behavior during the times of conflict and the times of negotiation. I wear several other hats as an angel investor, as a social entrepreneur. I run a couple of other companies. But the most important thing, that the most important hat that I'm wearing with you today is I'm just someone who has been observing people in negotiation. And when you guys start talking about authenticity, this is a very close topic to my heart, because a lot of times we focus so much on the tactics and we focus so much on the documentation and on the term sheet and on the skills, that we sometimes do not pay enough attention to what's really important, which is the behavior and the nature of the human who's working there. And now I would like to address this with you in the sense of, I want you to think about you and yourself when you negotiate. And the thesis that I'm sharing with you today is that there are two people, whenever you're walking into a negotiation, there are two people who are actually negotiating. And I would like to share something with you. I'm going to share screen very quickly right now. Just give me a second. And I hope you can see my screen now, right?
Perfectly.
Very good. So what I want to say is, when you take a decision about anything, and sometimes the hardest decision when you walk into negotiation, it is actually walking into the negotiation or not to begin with. How do you control your decision from the moment you say, this is something I'm interested in, so this is something that I'm going to go through, this is something that's important for me, and the decision of, no, I'm not interested, I'm not going to do this. The decision about agreeing to something or not, the decision about going on or not, the decision about agreeing to specific terms or not. And what I want to share with you here is that these decisions are controlled by several aspects. The first one is clearly the mental one, my calculations, what I know, what I don't know. But we sometimes ignore as well two other very important aspects, which are your physical status and your emotional status. How are you feeling today? Are you catching a cold? Are you sneezing too much? Are you not comfortable in your chair? Are you did you just got out of an accident? Your physical status. Sometimes people think that I'm joking, but I always tell, because a lot of part of my work is I do a lot of consulting and advising to C-level leaders in many organizations, and it comes to public speaking. I do a lot of public speaking as well, and advise on public speaking. And a lot of times I tell them, when you go on the stage, when you go into the negotiation, when you're about to sign something, you need to take care of the machine that's going to do this. And it's not just in your head, but it's also in everything that's actually happening to you. And I want to check something before we go on. Can you only see my screen, or you can see me as well? You can only see the screen,
mostly,
right?
Mostly the screen, yeah.
Mostly the screen.
But
all
you
right,
see
that's
your
fine.
picture as well.
All right, that's fine for now. So here's the thing. What happens is, if you are signing something, if you're doing something, and your physique is affecting your decision, in the sense of you really need to go to the restroom, you really need to go and eat, your blood sugar is actually low. These are all things that are affecting you in ways that you should not by any means ignore. Hold on for a second. Okay, so what I'm saying is, these are aspects that are affecting you, and when you ignore them, you are denying yourself the right to be yourself during these negotiations. In fact, you are not being fair to you, yourself, and to other things that are about to happen. Let me explain to you how. Because you're about to agree now or disagree to things that you should not agree on, because your physical status is actually affecting that decision. Let me be more specific. If you're uncomfortable in the way you're seating, if it's too hot, if it's too cold. Now, moving to the emotional part, how do you feel about this situation? How do you feel about the aspect that you, or the issues that you are negotiating, the contract that you're negotiating? Let's talk about something that's as simple as finding a job, buying a car, and you're about to negotiate that very important decision to you, and you have someone else in front of you who's about to, make you a different offer, maybe being tough on you. The simple fact about how you feel, number one, about the issue you're negotiating, number two, about the person, number three, about the repercussions, your emotional status, about all these three things affect things. If you like that person a little bit more than you should, because he looks like your grandparent, because he is such a handsome or a beautiful person, if you feel so despair inside your head, because at this moment that person was able to manipulate you emotionally into thinking you better take this offer because any other offer is actually out of the picture, it is totally invalid for you, you are emotionally being manipulated and you're not the same person. Now, what are we saying here? If this is something that's going to happen to all of us at the same time, what is the solution? How can I be authentic to myself and to make sure that I'm controlling my behavior when this is happening? Now, I'm going to share with you what with time, I came up with, and I call the pajama technique or the pajama theory. And what I'm saying here is the person who's sitting right now in your living room or in your office, you are the person wearing the pajama. And when you're wearing the PJ, what's happening? You're comfortable. You want to eat, you want to go to the you want to go to the restroom, you want to talk to someone, you want to take an advice. You are you. You are not influenced by so many things. And if you are, you can still control this and you can think clearly. You can use your computer and you can use a little bit of papers and pen to sketch things and plan whatever you want. I wish we have more time to talk about the planning and talk about the tactics and talk about what exactly you need to do in terms of strategy. But this is not what we're doing here. You can do this. But when you do this, remember that you are comfortable. Remember that you are you. You are the person in charge and you are the person who is deciding. And these are the two key words that I want you to remember today. You are the person who is deciding the position and you are the person who's deciding the interest. And the position is what I am going into this negotiation asking for. I'm going to be very stiff about. I'm going to insist on, and that's fine. This is the package that I want. This is what I want out of the process. This is how I want the process to look like. But then there's the interest. And this is very key. We are behaviorally, we are interest-based creatures. So you need to be very clear about your interest. Ask yourself, what is the most important thing that I want out of this meeting? What is the most important thing? Let's say, again, we're going to the interview. What is the most important thing that I want to get out of this interview for this job? Is it the salary? Is it the health insurance? Is it my position? Is it my parking slot? Or is it my ego? And be frank with yourself. If you don't get this job, is it the problem of not getting paid the salary you expect? If you don't get the position you want, is it the problem of not getting the position, although you might be getting even more money? Or is it your ego? Is it really your ego because of you and yourself? Or is it because of the ego and what it's telling you about how people are going to address you and look at you? I was just having a meeting with the top executive just a week ago, and she was a very nice, successful lady. And she told me that she's going to buy this new Mercedes, I don't know, a lot of specs. And we started joking about it a little bit. And she told me, this car is very important for me because this is going to be the proof that I made it. I have been struggling all my life as a female. I've been doing this and this and this and this. And I was like, listen, I mean, there are a couple of other options. I mean, with the same money, you can buy something rather than, she said, no, I'm going to buy this specific car and this specific Mercedes because this is my message to myself that I just made it. This is interesting because now she's going to define herself and to define her success and to define whatever is happening based on even define how satisfied her ego is based on the story of how people are going to look at her. I'm not going to judge her. I'm not going to say this is right or wrong. This is not my job. I have no ground to do this. The only thing that I ask you to do is be clear about it. Do not make fun of yourself. Do not cheat yourself. Do not tell a story that makes you feel nice and cool while the reality is something else, because then you're negotiating on the wrong ground. Let me explain to you why. Be clear with yourself that the most important thing for me is my image, my prestige, how I look as a strong leader. My most important thing is the interest that I'm protecting is how my family feel about it, how I'm going to prove to my dad and my mom that I was right. The most important thing that I'm here to prove is the money. I want to get the money, but I cannot say this because this is going to make me look cheap. I cannot talk about money. I'm going to tell them I'm doing this because of the good of the world. I'm doing this because I want to be a leader. I'm doing this because I want to change the world. I'm going to, but money is important for me, and you need to be clear with this. The person wearing the pajama needs to be clear about what is really important, what is the interest, because then your strategy, your tactics, everything that you're going to protect is going to be based on this. I'm not going to judge what is right and wrong because I have no ground on this. In fact, no one but you can decide what is important to you. My advice to you, I hate the word advice. My story to you today, I have seen so much over this few years that I worked on this, especially working one-to-one as an advisor and as a consultant and as a coach. When people say something in public, they say something even to themselves. But when you dig deeper with them, what they're looking for is something else. Once you reveal what you're looking for, once you know what you're fighting for, your strategy is different, your tactics is different. Now, a couple of things that I want to leave here before I move, I give the floor to my good friend Miro. How do we do this? But before we know how do we do this, I want to tease you with something. I know that I mean, most of you being shapers and most of you being the amazing young people you are, you've been hearing about the narrative of storytelling and how storytelling is becoming very important in so many industries and in so many ways. But I want to take the idea of storytelling into a little bit of a different place for the coming 2 minutes. The story you tell yourself defines what you're doing today. The intention of that story defines who you are, defines how much you like yourself, how much you respect yourself, how much you respect your mission. But most importantly, it defines your power. How powerful are you? The idea of power in the negotiation process, and please, this is my opinion, so please feel free to object and not to agree with me. The idea of power in a negotiation process is based on perception. I perceive myself to be more powerful because I have more money. I perceive myself to be more powerful because because of my gender. I'm a man. In my culture, I'm a man and you're a woman, so I'm more powerful. In other cultures, I'm a woman, I'm a man. You're a man, so I'm more powerful. I'm older, you're younger. Whatever it is, it has to do with how you perceive the situation. But most importantly, how realistic that perception is. Most importantly, how you perceive yourself. How much you like yourself and how much you believe in yourself. So my very quick idea here is there's an exercise that is called rewriting your story. And this is one of the amazing practices and amazing tools that I use with my clients all the time. Sometimes with the companies, sometimes with the startups, and sometimes with the individuals. And the idea of rewriting your story, that when if I ask any of you right now to pitch who you are and what you do, you're going to tell me, I'm Juvia and I live in this country and I do this. My parents come from this place and I do this and I study this and I study that. I'm the victim of this situation and this is why I'm doing this. You have a story that defines who you are, that defines your responsibility and that defines your character. I'm inviting you to write down that story. I'm inviting you to revisit the language of that story and to be focused in negotiation. When you go to the negotiation, what are you telling you and your people about why this negotiation is important and what are you going to do there? I'm going to negotiate on this environmental conference because this is going to save a lot of people and this is going to da 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 da. Good, that's a good story. Let's dig deeper. What's the real story? Is there another aspect? Is that important for your career? And that's okay, because that gives you the superpower of knowing what you're really protecting. Sometimes it's actually undermining your power. I'm a little girl. I'm a little person. I'm poor. I don't have power. I'm still junior. I don't have the ability to do this. Well, if you rewrite that story in the right language that allows you to find the kind of leverage that you need for that process, it makes a difference. The last thing that I'm going to go into right now is closing with the pajama technique. You cannot go and negotiate with a pajama. You're sitting there, you're planning, you're building the tactic, and now you're good to go. You go to bed, you go next day, and you put on your nice suit or whatever you're wearing for that meeting, and you are not the same person again. You work for the person wearing the pajama. You cannot do anything away from the mandate that that person gave to you. And here are two very important terms in the science of negotiation. The first one is reservation point. Sorry, the first one is aspiration point. This is the point or the price or the thing that you want to see, the best price you could possibly get. But then there's the reservation point. The reservation point is the point where you are indifferent between a negotiated agreement and an impasse. Beyond this point, thank you, Elisa. Beyond this point, your reservation point controls you. This is the red line. And it's not just the red line because, I just want to remember the red line. It's the red line because you have no mandate. You are not allowed to go past this. If you go past this, you are doing something against your own interest. The pajama person is the person in charge because when you are during the negotiation, you might be hungry, thirsty, attracted to the person next to you, like him so much, hate him so much. You might get angry, you might get manipulated, you might take a decision. You might be faced with information that you've never heard in your life before that changes everything. Hold on, but if that's true and there's new information and I need to change my tactic, it would be stupid just to stick to it. No? Think about your boss. What do you do when you are faced with new information? You pick up the phone, you cancel the meeting, you go talk to the other guy, the pajama guy, you go and you talk to him on the phone, you take a break for 3 days and come back. 1 day, 1 hour, 30 minutes, go to the restroom. Just go back and regroup and ask yourself, away from any influence that just took place, then you're wearing the pajama again. And then you have the right to make a new decision to protect your real you and the real interest. I wish we have more time, but I want to leave a little bit room for my friend Miro, and then Miro and myself are going to join you again by the end of the session, have a little bit of discussion. And I hope that made a lot of sense. And this is just the surface of what we want to scratch. And you guys can have so much more when you dig deeper. Most importantly, dig deeper in yourself. Thank you all. And Miro, up to you.
Thank you, Shehab, a lot. And hello to all pajama girls here. I hope that Shehab, now it's easier to be pajama girl and pajama boy during this pandemic time when we are mostly online than in person on site. Okay, I will start my part with continuation of what Shehab already said, but with a more interactivity part. So at the very beginning, I will ask you to choose only one out of three things. If I ask you to choose, what will you decide to take? Money, freedom, or family? So please, each of you write down in the chat, like faster, you have only 1 minute. So money, freedom, or family? Only one. Please do that.
Should we also send our choices or just?
Yeah, in the chat, only in the chat. Like, okay, freedom. Family, Jonah, okay, Juan, freedom. Ooh, a lot of freedom, huh? Just freedom. Oh, okay. Family, okay. Thank you. I will ask you one more question to choose something else. If I ask you, what do you believe in mostly? So mostly, it will be first choice, God. The second choice, destiny, not necessarily related to God, maybe nature, maybe whatever, like destiny, something which is not your influence. And the third choice will be my own future. So I shape my life by my own, and it is dependent only on my actions. So what will you choose of all three? So God, destiny, or my own? My own future. Okay. Okay, thanks, Evgenia. Gut feeling. Okay. This is something in between. Okay, I have one more question. If you want to go to vacation at this moment, right now, what place will you choose now? And explain shortly why, some characteristics, some objectives of this place. So now you want to go to vacation. What is that place? And some characteristics, or let's say some motivation why you will do that. You don't want to go to vacation? Come on, you want hot and sunny or smoke? I don't know. Okay, hot and sunny. Costa Rica, to be in the happy community of digital nomads there. Okay, hippie community. Okay. Some other? Bali beach. Oh, okay. Super. Okay. Try please one or two more, which will describe this place in terms of adjective. So, for example, if you like beach, okay, but because I know it's nice, it's let's say friendly or whatever, but try to put some adjective. Arizona, why Arizona? Okay, Joanna, write us. Okay, whatever. History, culture, farm nature. This is what I am asking for. Thanks. Right, a lot of nature. Okay, farms. Great. And the last one, I will ask you how. No, let's say two more. I have one more inspiration. If you are at the faculty, because I understood that some of you are maybe at the faculty, final ages, final let's say years there at the faculty, or let's say it doesn't mean if you are at work somewhere. Tell me when you study how you easily remember all the material, like when you read it only, or maybe when you read it quietly in silence, or when you read it loudly, let's say, or when maybe you write down something or have some facts, or let's say make something with your pen on it. What is your, let's say, of these three, what will you choose? What was your easiest way to do that during your faculty days? Reading it out loud. Okay. Thanks, Jana. Oh, Jana, sorry for pronunciation. There are different pronunciation types. Depends on which type of which place in the world you are. When I write it on my hand and check the hand during the exam, you want to cheat? Okay. Oh, reading it out loud. Okay. Okay. Good. Good. And now, finally, the last. If I ask you how you see yourself, are you, in terms of communications, are you more direct? Are you more diplomatic? Or are you 50-50, let's say? Half of it, half of it. What will you choose? Direct, diplomatic. Okay. Diplomatic, 50-50. I like. Well, I'm even more diplomatic, but working super hard to be more direct. Okay. Diplomatic for urgent things. Aha, direct with urgent things. I like your approach, Ed. Super, 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 super. Okay, thanks a lot for this introduction. Why is this important? I will show you just one slide from my computer. It is now. Hopefully you can see it, right? Thumbs up?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, super, super cool. Okay, so in order to negotiate, we need skills. Yeah, that's right. But in order to understand which skills to improve and how to maximize their effectiveness and efficiency, firstly, what we need is to truly understand who am I, our authenticity, but authenticity in really different type of authenticity. Let's say these are my top 4 choices, how we can differ from each other in order to help us to start negotiation with somebody. First, we need to understand ourselves, and then to understand the other people. I wrote here other, but if you negotiate one-on-one, it's only one person. But if you negotiate with more people, you should understand their perspective as well. In terms of values, there are a lot of values, like more than 100 or maybe 200 values, different values. And of course, all of us, when we have, usually I'm doing workshops for every person to understand what are their top 5 or top 3 values. I asked here only 3 to choose 1 out of 3, which is easier part, but it's interesting when you want to choose out of 100 to come up with the last top 3 values. So for example, if some of you answered freedom, right? If you want to negotiate for a new job place, and you go there, and this is your focus. So most probably, what will makes you happy is usually what is connected with your value. If it's a freedom, it's freedom in that job. That means you should focus on the compromise thing and the context. So what does it mean? It means that first you said, okay, freedom is the most important value for me. This means that I will not make any compromise in negotiation with this part in the job, or let's say a little bit. But the other parts, let's say how salary is high, let's say the money, or if I have enough time for my family or for free time, whatever, it's not so important, let's say, for me, so I can compromise there. But when you know yourself, it's great. This is authentically you in terms of values. And that means that you can start from there. But of course, in this context, you should find out what are, let's say, your employer's, future employer, also values, or let's say the values of that company. So find out what are the values of that company and find out how usually they work. So what is important? If you ask somebody, some other employee for that company, and if you ask you what is satisfied mostly about, somebody of you will say money. Somebody of them will answer some other things. Maybe I have fully freedom, flexibility of whatever. So in that context, you are ready to negotiate because you understand the other side, the other party as well. But first, yourself, of course. In terms of beliefs, I have one saying usually said that whatever you believe in, you're right. So these are beliefs that are not in our system from the very beginning, but during our background, during our childhood, during our professional, let's say, career, we have some beliefs. And these are changeable, of course, but we should be aware which of them are really connected and related with ourselves first, and what are the others as well. For example, nowadays the most reliable example is if you ask somebody, do they believe in remotely working, and remotely working that can make efficiency as let's say presence in person in the office, and you will receive completely different answers because these are values what they believe. So the other side, of course, and of course first you should ask yourself what I believe in. If I'm more productive when I'm remotely, if I'm more productive when I'm let's say on site or hybrid, whatever. In terms of thinking preferences, I ask you about the vacation and type. I usually hear the most important part are the adjectives. Here there are a lot of different people, different characteristics. As usually, I mean, not usually, but we have these thinking preferences in our brain from the very beginning, from our childhood, from when we are 5 to 7 years old. These are part of our character, and it's great if we understand what are our thinking preferences and how we see and communicate with people. In terms, if for us it's more important to use brain or heart. This means are we more rational or more emotional human being? For us, is it better to understand things in terms of strategy, in terms of ideas or visionary, or for us is important if I want all these things to happen in order? For me, it's important to have, let's say, order, to control this order, or maybe to make it on traditional way. Or let's say, maybe for us, it's important to make it more clear, short, and with the facts. So fact-based. So what is important for you? Or maybe for you, it's important just to have a friendly environment, or let's say where some environment where you can be empathetic with others. So this is also great starting point for yourself. But of course, it's great if you can research, can understand the other party as well. So in that context, you can adjust your authenticity a little bit to their authenticity as well. Because it's easier when you can find match of this authenticity. For example, I'm more strategic guy and visionary guy, but when I talk with people who are, let's say, in order, and they said they don't understand me, what is my vision in 10 years from now, but they want to say, okay, tell me the process. And I said, okay, step 1, this. Step 2, this. Step 3, this. And of course, you will have more negotiation, let's say, advantage in that communication if you use some of this authenticity of other part. And in terms of communicator, you can divide, there are a lot of categories here. I asked you for 2 of them. If you are more diplomatic and, or let's say direct, or 50-50. And I understood some of you that said, when it's urgent, I want direct. When it's not urgent, it's not direct. And this is part of your authenticity. For example, for me, I'm most of the time direct a lot, but here the context is important, because for some with somebody when I negotiate, usually directness means that I'm just strong. Let's say I said this, and no excuses. No, I cannot adjust from this. These are my final points, red lines. But sometimes it's great, and I can adjust also to be direct, but to tell this through the joke, or let's say in many funny contexts, but also to be direct and say, ha ha ha, this is the ta 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 ta, and I will say it direct because this is my authenticity, but it's more friendly way because maybe the other person is more diplomatic. So that's how maybe you will find some match. All these, let's say, skills in the very beginning, this is just starting point. Of course, after that, you will improve all these skills, but this should be a starting point to understand where you can start to improve the skills. And of course, after that, if you understand better what are their position, what is their need in concrete term, in concrete context. I remember from the last year, Jofi remembered the orange from the Michael from Ecuador that tell us, and this is perfect example I will show you. For example, when we go in negotiation, we are aware about the compromise, and we start maybe, I don't know, I want part of this and the other party want another part, but it's not always true, because both parties can be satisfied by fully receiving that what they want. For example, if we have one orange, maybe I just want to make orange juice, and the other party can only want to make a cake from this orange part, which is not connected with juice. So both of us will be satisfied if we do it that way, but not doing like cutting the orange on the half and half for me, half for the other party, because no party will be satisfied. So that's why first we need to understand what is our authenticity in order to start, then to be ready. What is my compromise, in which part of my authenticity I can make more compromise, in which not, and then to understand the other party. And as you understand more deeply other party, you will have more chances to have great deal at this negotiation process.